Welcome, everyone. This is A Course in Miracles Palm Beach Study Group. We are on Chapter 8 and Section 5, the United Will of the Sonship. In the text, in the book, it's on page 146. I'll begin reading. Can you be separated from your identification and be at peace? Disassociation is not a solution. It is a delusion. The delusional believe that truth will assail them, and they do not recognize it because they prefer the delusion. Judging truth as something they do not want, they perceive their illusions which block knowledge. Helping them by offering them your unified mind on their behalf, as I am offering you mine on behalf of yours. Alone we can do nothing. But together, our minds fuse into something whose power is far beyond the power of its separate parts. By not being separate, the mind of God is established in ours and as ours. This mind is invincible because it is undivided. So first of all, the realm of spirit is the realm of mind. And there's a lot of emphasis placed on the mind in the Course. And basically what the Course teaches is that as you change your mind, you change your reality. So let's start at the beginning. It's asking a question. Can you be separated from your identification? And what they mean by that is your identification as a spiritual being. So can you be separated from your identification as a spiritual being and be at peace? It's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. Disassociation is not a solution, and disassociation happens when we're thinking with ego mind instead of with spirit mind, when we're thinking that we're only human beings and that we are our bodies. That's ego thinking. But that's a delusion, as all ego thinking is delusional. And then it says the delusional believe that the truth will assail them. So ego teaches us that believing that we're spiritual beings, that we're going to be assaulted, because ego thinks that God's going to punish us for thinking that we could separate ourselves from him. So that's where the guilt and punishment comes in, especially in like the Old Testament, those ideas. And they, us, we do not want to recognize this assault, and because we prefer the delusion. We're much more comfortable in the ego world. Basically, that's all we've been known up until the point where we start learning that, oh, really, we're spiritual beings? So judging truth as something they do not want, which is what the ego teaches, we perceive our illusions which block knowledge. We perceive the ego illusions which block spiritual knowledge. And then it says, help them. Help yourself help your brothers and sisters by offering them your unified mind, your spiritual mind on their behalf, as I, Jesus, am offering you mine on behalf of yours. So as we share these teachings with our brothers and sisters, as we shared our spiritual thoughts in our mind, even if we don't speak them aloud, but just share blessings of peace and joy and faith with people through our prayers. In sharing them, we're helping them, whether they realize it or are conscious of it or not. So then sentence 6 says, alone we can do nothing, because separate ego beings are powerless. But together, as spiritual beings, our minds fuse into something whose power is far, far beyond the power of its separate parts. The spiritual mind is far beyond the power of any power that the ego mind has. By not being separate, by being unified in spirit, the mind of God is established as ours. Now, in our mind, and as our mind. This mind, the spiritual mind, is invincible because it is undivided, because the Course teaches us that we are all one. We are one with God and one with one another, and that is the unified spiritual mind. Jill.
So last week I had a massage. A friend of mine is going to massage school, and she invited me to come down and get actually 2 massages. And in the room were about 30 people getting massages, and because they have a school and they do it in this school. And it was so amazing because of the unification of the sensation of relaxation in the room. All of the people in the room were devoted and in there, including the teachers and the people massaging, for the purposes of the massage, of the different massages that they were doing. There were, 10 different types of massages they were giving or whatever. I don't know. I had reflexology and this, that, and the other thing. And I realized that it was because of that unification that it was such a powerful experience. And I think it's that 1 + 1 does not equal 2. It definitely equals more than 2.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, that's a good example. When minds are unified, it's exponential power. It's not just the sum of the parts, it's more than the sum of the parts. That's true. Are there any other questions or comments about what we've read thus far? Okay, then let's go on to paragraph 2. The undivided will of the sonship is the perfect creator, being wholly in the likeness of God, whose will it is. You cannot be exempt from it if you are to understand what it is and what you are. By the belief that your will is separate from mine, you are exempting yourself from the will of God, which is yourself. Yet to heal is still to make whole. Therefore, to heal is to unite with those who are like you, because perceiving this likeness is to recognize the Father. If your perfection is in him and only in him, how can you know it without recognizing him? The recognition of God is the recognition of yourself. There is no separation of God and his creation. You will realize this when you understand that there is no separation between your will and mine. Let the love of God shine upon you by your acceptance of me. My reality is yours and his. By joining your mind with mine, you are signifying your awareness that the will of God is one. So again, the speaker is Jesus. And he's told us over and over again that we are his brothers, that we are one with him. And so in joining our will with Jesus's will, we're joining our will with all of spirit, with all of the mind of spirit, with the will of God. Ultimately, it all goes back to source. It all goes back to the oneness. So there's some pretty clear sentences in here. There is no separation of God and his creation, sentence 8. Any questions, comments? Paragraph 3. God's oneness and ours are not separate because his oneness encompasses ours. To join with me is to restore his power to you because we are sharing it. I offer you only the recognition of his power in you, but in that lies all truth. As we unite with him. Glory be to the union of God and his holy sons. All glory lies in them because they are united. The miracles we do bear witness to the will of the Father for his Son and to our joy in uniting his will for us. So, this theme of oneness just pervades the entire course. That's the thing that we have to live it. We have to come to where we completely understand that we are one with God and one with one another. We have to live that oneness. And that is where the miracle occurs. And so every time we get disjointed, every time we lapse into ego, where we become judgmental and criticizing, where we become angry or hurtful or any of the negative ego stuff, that's the time when we have to stop dead in our tracks. Take a deep breath and say, no, I'm not going to be that way. I am one with God, and I am one with all of my brothers and sisters. We are one in the Spirit. And there's a song, we are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. If you know that song, start singing it. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 4. When you unite with me, you are uniting without the ego, because I have renounced the ego in myself and therefore cannot unite with yours. Our union is therefore the way to renounce the ego in you. The truth in both of us is beyond the ego. Our success is transcending the ego. our success in transcending the ego is guaranteed by God. And I share this confidence for both of us and all of us. I bring God's peace back to his children because I received it of him for us all. Nothing can prevail against our united wills because nothing can prevail against God's. And this again echoes the promise of the Course that we all will experience that reunification, that healing, that miracle of realizing our oneness and transcending the ego mind, leaving the ego mind behind. That's a promise that we are given. God says, you know what? You're just sleeping. You're little children sleeping, having a bad dream. And I'm sitting here waiting for you to wake up, because when you wake up, you'll forget the dream. You'll realize that all of that nightmare didn't really happen, that it was just an illusion, and that all this time you have been safe and secure in the bosom of the Father. Any questions, comments? Yes, Megan.
Hi, thank you. I have a question. When it talks about when I unite with you, there's like no room for the ego. And it says, because I have renounced the ego in myself and therefore cannot unite with yours. Does that mean that, say, when you're choosing to engage with someone else and maybe your ego is popping up a little bit, but theirs is really put to the side, by choosing to connect with them, does their lack of ego override yours? And now that means that you can experience that connection and then the presence of God? Is that what that's kind of talking about? Or if you can break that down a little further.
Let me explain it to you this way. Right now, we are experiencing a split mind. We operate in ego mind and we operate in spirit mind. The part of us that operates in ego mind gets angry, gets depressed, gets selfish, gets whatever, all negative side. The part of us that is united with our spirit mind is the part that prays for peace, that experiences joy, that tries to, just to do good. And we're in the flux between the two minds. But the goal is to have a united mind in spirit. Once that happens, and there have been terms that have been used for this, such as enlightenment. A person reaches enlightenment, or a person reaches nirvana, or, exampled by Jesus and Buddha and other holy men. That's an understanding of that they've reached a complete unification of the mind. They have completely removed their mind of the ego mind, and that disappeared. That just went away. And so they're totally working with spiritual mind only, 100%. That's our goal. That's what we're working towards. So what Jesus is saying here is that I am working 100% with my spirit mind. So there's no way that I can interact with your ego mind. You know, I have renounced the ego in myself, it says, and therefore cannot unite with yours, with your ego mind. And then he says, our union is therefore the way to renounce the ego in you. To the degree that we can unite with the spirit mind, with God's will, with Jesus's mind, then we are denouncing the ego mind, leaving the ego mind behind. And the Course is teaching us how to do that, because that's our end goal. And Jesus is just saying here, so, you know, I can't engage with you on your ego mind. I can only engage with you in your spirit mind, because I've left the ego mind behind. That's a good mantra. I've left the ego mind behind. I've left the ego mind behind. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else care to speak? I believe we're on paragraph 5 then. Would you know the will of God for you? Ask it of me who know it for you, and you will find it. I will deny you nothing, as God denies me nothing. Ours is simply the journey back to God, who is our home. Whenever fear intrudes anywhere along the road to peace, it is because the ego has attempted to join the journey with us and cannot do so. Sensing defeat and angered by it, the ego regards itself as rejected and becomes retaliative. You are invulnerable to its retaliation because I am with you. On this journey, you have chosen me as your companion instead of the ego. Do not attempt to hold on to both, or you will try to go in different directions and lose the way. Again, another theme that is echoed by the Course over and over and over again. You can't serve both the ego and spirit. You have free will. You need to decide. Spirit will not force itself upon you. Ego is continually forcing itself upon you, but you are the decider. You have the free will and you can choose, but don't attempt to do both. It's not going to work. That's just going to delay your eventual healing. Any questions, comments? And now we're on paragraph 6, which is the last paragraph of this section. The ego's way is not mine, but it is also not yours. The Holy Spirit has one direction for all minds, and the one he taught me is yours. Let us not lose sight of his direction through illusions, for only illusions of another direction can obscure the one for which God's voice speaks in all of us. Never accord the ego the power to interfere with the journey. It has none, because the journey is the way to what is true. Leave all illusions behind and reach beyond all attempts of the ego to hold you back. I go before you because I am beyond the ego. Reach, therefore, for my hand because you want to transcend the ego. My strength will never be wanting, and if you choose to share it, you will do so. I give it willingly and gladly because I need you as much as you need me. In sentence 3, when it says, let us not lose sight of his direction through illusions, for only illusions of another direction can obscure the one for which God's voice speaks in all of us. God's voice is the same as saying the Holy Spirit. It's just another way that the Course names the Holy Spirit. Whenever you see anywhere in the Course where it's talking about God's voice, it's the same thing as the Holy Spirit. So never accord the ego the power to interfere with the journey. That's our mandate. And for a lot of us, that's not easy because let's face it, the ego world teaches the ego. And in order to learn to live in the spirit world, you have to unlearn the ego world. And we've all been brought up in the ego world. And so, it's very powerful. And that's where, when the Course says, be vigilant, be vigilant. In other words, study your mind and your behaviors and your speech and everything that you do and say and act in the world. Be vigilant for signs of the ego leading you astray and trying to catch you, trying to make you take a step back. Yes, Jill.
The ego is often called the trickster.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's very true. So, we have reached the end of this section. So just to open it up for general discussion about anything that we've read, or any other questions for about the Course or comments?
I think it's highly unlikely that we achieve this in this lifetime. I think that, only few that we know of, Jesus, as you mentioned, maybe Elijah, maybe Buddha, like you say, a couple of yogis. But for the most part, it happens after we transcend this life.
Well, I'm trying to be more hopeful.
Oh, I'm not hoping. Yeah, well, we're all hoping. It's just, realistically speaking, the ego, as I say, is known as the trickster. and we do everything we can. And we read our readings, and we keep evolving. Yes, there's no doubt, and it is possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying that it's not necessarily the likeliest thing, and it doesn't matter because we have a long, long career after this. It's a very long career, so a very exciting career as well. So there's lots of opportunity, but God is fully about free will, and that's the most important thing. Is that God will never interfere, or will most likely not interfere, not never, but will not interfere. And that's the prime directive in Star Trek, non-interference. And it's the prime directive from God himself, is non-interference. And so he gives us free will. And there's a line in the Bible in Peter 2:2 that says that God is long-suffering, lest every soul be saved. And so God is long-suffering, and we also are to be long-suffering with our fellow human beings and give them every opportunity, and, keep shining the light and give our friends and fellows every chance that God gives for us.
Yes, thank you, Jill. It's, as they say, one day at a time. Just do the best you can in the moment. Take one day at a time. It's a funny thing about the journey, because as you go day by day, you don't necessarily realize the progress that you're making. It's only when you're like halfway up the hill and you stop and you turn around and look back to where you started, and then you can say, oh my goodness, I've come all this way. I'm halfway there. Look, the top is there and I can see it. So in the moment, in the day, we don't always see the progress that we've made, but step by step, one day at a time, little by little, and for however long it takes, because yes, God is long suffering, and that's the lesson of reincarnation, that we're always given another chance. God doesn't say, well, if you don't make it this time, too bad for you. No, God's not that way. There is no hell. None of us are damned to hell. We just get a chance to keep on going, one life after the other, until we finally arrive at the mountaintop. Yes, Jill.
So I always make distinctions, and I make a distinction about reincarnation versus resurrection. Jesus himself taught the resurrection. He never talked about reincarnation. We do not come back to this earth. That we do not do. We do not come back as a dog. We do not come back as an elephant. We do not come back to this earth. So if you want to talk about reincarnation, I'm not in that club. But what I was going to, I make distinctions here, very powerful distinctions that I always bring up. But I was going to mention that the three of us who are here, aside from you, John, all were in a community called the Gratitude Community. And one of the things that we were taught in the Gratitude Community was this lesson about the monkeys on this island that all were washing a potato. And didn't wash a potato. They all just ate the sweet potato. And then this one monkey washed the potato and cleaned the dirt off the potato. And then finally another monkey did it, and then another, and then another. And until that was the 100th monkey thing. When the 100th monkey washed the potato, every single monkey on the entire planet washed the potato. And so in our gratitude community, we used to call that the 2%. And that is when 2% of the world's population experience what we're talking about here in terms of becoming less ego-minded and more at one with the will of God and in the spiritual mind all the time, as often as we possibly can, that the entire world will shift. And that's the number. The number is 2%. because it took only 2% of those monkeys. That was the 100th monkey to wash the potatoes, to change the paradigm for the entire world of monkeys. We're not much different from monkeys, but we are a little bit. But anyway, so just that little bit. Our group knows that story.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I've heard that story before also. Megan, Melanie, did you have anything to say or add or ask?
I don't really have anything right now. I've just been listening. One thing, Jill, when you were talking, you made, those assertions around the distinction around resurrection versus reincarnation. I think it's interesting, but the way that you stated it as if it was a fact. That's the only thing I wanted to call out is, I know it's your belief based on the things that you've read and stuff, but I think it's all fascinating, all of this, because I'm in the question and like, what is the truth? I don't know what the truth is. I mean, A Course in Miracles is this the truth? And like, I guess that's my question for you guys. In terms of, we're operating as if this is the truth, right? And that's the goal, is to align in such a way that this is truth. But I guess just I want to believe in this for sure, and I want to believe this is truth, but I'm trying to figure out with, like, and then when Jill shared, what is the truth, I guess, is coming up for me. That's my question right now.
Thank you, Melanie. I have a couple of comments on that. First of all, as far as I know, A Course in Miracles does not teach reincarnation. I personally do believe that I've been here many times before, based on several different reasons. But that's my personal belief. As far as the truth, that is where free will comes in again too. We have to decide for ourselves what is the truth. And if to me, I've done extensive reading and research and world religions and all kinds of stuff, metaphysics and what have you. And the truth rings very loudly for me when I read the Course. So for me, the Course is speaking truth. It's not the only thing that speaks truth. I think the truth is to be found in many other religions and texts and what have you. I mean, if somebody says God is good, to me, that's part of the truth. And whoever says that, wherever it comes from, if that's part of it, then I agree with that is truth. So ultimately, all we can do is study and learn the best that we can, and whatever is true for you is what the truth is for you. And you have to just go ahead and live your life according to that, because there's really nothing else that any of us can do. I have to live my truth. You have to live your truth. And if your truth and my truth don't agree, well, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
Jill?
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Jill, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. So Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, That was the first part of it. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
I feel
Yeah,
like the truth. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
no, I was just going to say, I would kind of rephrase that when you know the truth will set you free. Go ahead, Melanie.
I was gonna say, do you think we're born? Because like what comes to me is I feel like I'm born knowing the truth. I come here aware of the truth, and then I've received programming outside, egoic programming that has kind of overshadowed the innate knowingness, like that knowing that I feel like we have. And I agree, Jill, what you said, that we do know the truth. Like I feel like that's just part of our makeup when we come here. And I think you've talked about this too in the past too, John, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, if you put a group of little babies in a room together of all different races and colors and creeds and what have you, and for the most part, they're just going to play with each other. They're not going to see the differences, but as they get educated and grow up in the world and they learn prejudices and all of the ego stuff, then that develops. So yes, I think that people are born pretty pure spirits, so to speak. Jill?
Hello, thank you. I'm always here to make distinctions very clearly. I've looked up the verse from John 8:32. Then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It is not when, it is then. There are probably 10 or 15 different verse interpretations here, and all of them are, and you will know the truth, and you will know the truth, then you will know the truth, and you will know the truth. It is not when you will know the truth, it is then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And I do make these distinctions very purposely because I think the word is John 1:1. In the beginning was the word. I think it's very important to know that, not necessarily the Paulist interpretations, but the word just as it was delivered, if we possibly can. I was going to mention a line from the Urantia book, and I may get it not exactly right, but I'll get part of it right. And it goes like this: the magnificent conquest of the belligerent self. That is our job here. That is what we are doing. The magnificent conquest of the belligerent self. That is the ego. So I think, Melanie, what you say is true, that little babies are born innocent. We're born innocent, and we're given this whole set of stuff, and we go through this whole set of stuff. And then we start getting glimpses of the truth. And that's what ACIM is. That's what the Course in Miracles is. It is something that is leading us to the truth. And then you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And other things that we do potentially are leading us in that direction. And we all individually know it. We know the truth when we know it. And so it is also a journey, and it is our earthly journey because we were born on this planet, and it is part of our earthly journey, is that to overcome that ego, to overcome that belligerent self. And that's the process of what we are doing, what we're doing right here, sharing in this group, being able to share our different thoughts in this way, and to be able to have this stuff to chew on, this food for our spirit, this mind food, so that we can chew on it and know the truth, so that we can be set free. Thank you.
Jill, I'd like to ask you a question. You're quoting, "Then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." What is the sentence before that? Because it says, "Then you shall know." Well, what was the sentence before that that led to the "then you shall know"?
Okay, and there are lots of cross references in here, but he was talking to the Jews who believed him. And so we could dig into that. I don't know exactly this moment, but you can definitely research it. It's very easy to research the Bible, and you can find the verses before John 8:32 and find out what it is. But it was something that he said. So,
I thought you had the Bible open and you could just read it to us.
no, I don't. What I did when I said that was I just went to the internet and I found let's see the content.
Right,
Yeah.
I get you. Okay.
Well, it says, verse 31 is, "So he said to the Jews who had believed him, 'If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.'" Very important, though. I love that you brought that up, because it's just what I was just saying. If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples. This is how important the distinctions that I make, I feel, are right here. And the distinctions of making this distinction of what Jesus actually taught, because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. And that's what a lot of, Christianity is not based, although it's based on the word of Jesus, it's a lot of Paulism, a lot of Paul's interpretation of the word.
Right.
When you go directly to the word, you will be sure to get the truth.
Well, if we extrapolate that, because we're saying that Jesus is the one who's giving us the course, and so if that's true, then by studying the course will set us free, because that is his truth, giving it to us to now and at this time, as he did 2,000 years ago. But now we have a better understanding of what he was teaching by studying the course.
Absolutely. And also, you can buy a version of the Bible which has Jesus's words just written in red. Thomas Jefferson actually wrote that Bible.
Right.
And you can read just the words of Jesus without all the other words and without all the other confusion, and you can get it right from the source. And it's absolutely marvelous.
Thank you. Well, okay then, folks. We have spent our hour for tonight. Megan, Melanie, any last minute anythings?
Thank you all for tonight.
Okay.
If I can, I would just love to point out, because something about this really hit my heart. The last 2 or 3 lines of the chapter, where it says, my strength is never wanting. I go before you, reach out my hand, and you're going to take it because you want to transcend. And just the line, "I need you just as much as you need me," had really just hit my heartstrings. And I was like, wow, that just really sparked the passion to dive into this work even more. Meditating on that phrase about how much not only do I need God, but how much he needs me.
Yes.
And
Thank you for pointing that out, Megan. And
Yeah,
again, Jesus says that in this course many, many times. He's always reminding us that He needs us, God needs us as much as we need them. Yes, thank you. Okay, then, students, I'll call you students. Let's have a moment of silence then as we end for this evening.